Hi, I'm Nathan Wilson with the Independence Money Show, and we are here at the beautiful Coeur d'Alene Resort in Idaho at the Silver Symposium 2021, where we're about to talk about how real money can protect you in these uncertain times. Hi, I'm Nathan Wilson with the Independence Money Show, where we teach people how to protect assets and income from the theft of taxation and sound money principles. And I'm with the David Morgan of the Morgan Report. And Chris, I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Chris with Financial Fitness. I'm here to warn the blue-collar crowd of what's coming and how to prepare. And I'm doing my part just to help anybody I can, because this is important. There's no way to not see what's coming.
David, to quote Shakespeare, a rose by any other name is still a rose. And I'm a big believer in words and what they really, really mean. And I want to give a shout out to my buddy Rich, who first broke down to me the idea of owning physical metal. And my first objection was it doesn't have a yield on it. Mm-hmm. And I started digging into the word inflation. And in the N is a positive. If I'm going to inflate your bank account or inflate your ego or inflate your deflated bicycle tire, that's a positive word, and that's the word the government uses. But D words are negative. And so I came to the realization that inflation is actually devaluation of the currency. So is that why metal doesn't need a yield? Because we go get yield-based items to hedge against the deflationary currency, but metal is a hedge against that by itself. Can you kind of break down how the value of the fiat dollar has devaluated over time?
Well, you really asked me two questions, so I'm going to attack them one at a time. One is, why doesn't physical metal have a yield? And it's the same reason a paper dollar doesn't have a yield. The physical dollar, I even hate to use the word dollar because it's a weight of silver, but physical Federal Reserve notes. So when you carry these, there's no yield on those. It's the same way with the silver coin, and there shouldn't be, because money in the physical form is a physical reality. I mean, an ounce of silver is an ounce of silver anywhere in the universe, right? And so when you use it as an exchange mechanism, you don't need a yield on it. It's only when you store it or you present it to a banker or a commodities dealer or whatever that they might offer you a yield, but that's their thing. So true money shouldn't really have a yield. As far as how much depreciation have we had, a phenomenal amount, but not enough to get people upset. And what I mean by that is from 1913 till now, the Federal Reserve will tell you that 100-cent dollar in 1913 now it's worth about 2 cents. So it's got a 98% failure rate. And yet it's been slow enough and insidious enough that most people don't even pay much attention to it until recently. Now a lot of people are saying, oh, they can't be printing this much money, and then look at food inflation. The only inflation that most people pay attention to are food and energy. When it's gasoline and groceries, they pay attention. See, what we all know something about is the investment markets. And most people that are working class people don't know about the stock market, don't care about the stock market, don't give a damn about the difference between a bond and a stock. And good for them. I'm not saying you have to know anything about it. All they want to know is, I work hard, I want to save what I've earned, and I want low risk. And that's what it used to be about. Because if you saved $1 in 1900 and it was a silver dollar, and you go out in the future and you didn't have all these gains, that dollar would actually buy you more 30 years from now. So you don't need a financial planner, you don't need an investment advisor, you just need common sense that that dollar is going to be worth $1 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years from now. And that's the way it used to be. That's why you could have like the price of bread stable for 100 years, is because the money was stable for 100 years. But we've been away from that, as we all know. But the point I want to make is, back to your question, is if you have stability. See, most people are not that greedy. All they want for a financial stability is security. So if you save money, they want security. It's not about how much money. I mean, the idea of how much is different for everybody. What I need to feel comfortable or safe in my retirement is probably a different number than yours is. But there's no right or wrong. What the common denominator is that we both know we can trust the money, and we know that it'll buy what we need at any time in our future. And that's gone away. And that awareness is starting to wake up for everybody. And that's what we need, because we need, the money power is held by the elite, and power is control. So they have more and more control over us, the more and more control they have over the monetary system. And the only way to break free of that is for the people to be the power, the money power. And the only time that's really taken place has been when we've had the silver standard. And that's when the people had most of the silver in their pockets, in their homes, in their businesses, and the bankers didn't. And that changed in 1873, really, when the Wizard of Oz, which is a metaphor for the yellow brick road to go into the Emerald City, where the gold was the only money allowed, and of course, greenbacks, or the green sheets of paper, represented the gold that the bankers held. And then it morphed into a fractional reserve system, and on it goes. So I think I answered the question. It did valued greatly, but it's been slow enough for most people not to be aware of it. The only time people really became aware of it was my generation, back when I was in my late 20s, and inflation was 13%. And I, being overeducated, I thought, this is it, the end. It's happening, because interest rates got pushed up to around 20% in U.S. Treasuries. And that's mafia money. I mean, normal interest rates are around 5-6%, and it went all the way to 20. It tripled. That's the kind of money you get from the loan shark on the street corner. So I thought, since interest rates are a function of not only returns, 20% is a hell of a return, but it's also a function of risk, meaning I don't trust you. 20% is like impossible to pay back. Not true. The best thing you could have done at that time was sell your gold, bought the long bond, and got these huge coupons for 30 years, and watch the bond value go up, 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 and up, because when interest rates come down, bond prices go higher. But that's ending. It's really ended, in my view, but I haven't called the top of the bond market. I tried a couple times. I don't want to get too technical here, but that's it. We've been lied to for a very long time, and more people are waking up. And we don't need to know anything about futures or options or stocks or bonds. What you need to focus on, from my opinion, is sound money, honest money for honest people, so that they can save and have faith that tomorrow, a month, a year, 2 years from now, that money is going to buy what they need.
So many people are used to transacting in dollars. It's like we're hardwired to cash. When I ask people at work, I poll them. I'm learning this stuff. I'm learning the petrodollar is so important. It's the biggest news that I've heard in a long time. And we're losing the petrodollar. That's incredible. When I ask people, what do you think about the petrodollar? It's like, I don't know. What is petrodollar?
Yeah, right.
And I get that, because I was there too. I don't watch, stay in my lane. I'm doing my best. But these things happen. I ask them about silver. You have a little gold, a little silver, 10%. Put it in your closet, put it in a hole, whatever. It'll cover you if something happens. Currencies last about 50 years. This is the 50th year. There's been 600 of them. They all go away. Nobody's going to man the ship when it's going down, including Trump. This thing's coming to an end, and 90% of the move is in the last 10% of the time. That's the most important thing I try to tell people, because if you put Weimar and our chart over each other, there's these little hope phases, and where it looks like we're at the last one. It looks like it's right before if you go through the book When Money Dies, it was written then by Weimar German. It's like Jerome Powell standing up there. I got chill bumps on my arm. They're saying the same poppycock. It's the same words, the same jawboning that was going on then. So that's what I'm trying to get across to my people.
Yeah.
And there's no other way to see it. If I could find another way to preserve wealth, or I would. Because I don't know if are we going to be going around sheckling silver back and forth?
I don't think so. I think there'll be a blend between physical silver and the digital world. I think you're going to be able to transact with, digitized silver and gold. It's already people doing that. I'm involved with the the Lode Project, and there's others out there that do it. And that's a benefit for several reasons. One, security, so you're not carrying a bunch of silver coins on you. Secondly, fractionization. You know, we could get down to the gram of silver, which is a pretty small amount. So I could pay you $20.13 based on the silver price.
Sure.
And the other part is portability. I mean, you know, silver's so undervalued, you know, so I don't know the exact ratio, but it's like 72 to 1 or something. So, you know, something that's one unit that big I can easily put in my pocket and be worth $1,800. To do the equivalent in silver, I got to put 72 of those in my pockets, and my pockets would break. But with the digitized silver and gold, you don't have that issue. Yet there will still be physical in the markets, because first, you know, for two reasons. One, some people will want a portion of their metal to be held at home or in physical form. And more importantly, the industrial side has to have the physical reality to create your cell phone, your TV set, your membrane switch, your electronic component, and on it goes. So that part of the market will always be good, but to have it digitized until they need it will be very convenient for them.
Do you see us mining in the landfills for silver?
I don't, but Jim Dines does. Jim Dines, who
it
writes the
makes kind of
Dines
sense.
letter, said that in the future we'll be mining landfills for metal. He has said that.
Well, the easy stuff's already been got.
Some, I mean, I'm pretty tied to the mining industry, as
Yeah,
you know,
well,
and there
I
are
like
some
Wars
pretty
and everything.
good-sized deposits that have yet to become producing mines. So I'm pretty confident of that. But still, looking out and trying to be objective, we're still only talking a few years before you might be looking at landfills.
So, David, you mentioned silver's at an all-time low, and just basic common sense, you know, buy low, sell high. The stock market, the real estate, everything's at an all-time high. If silver, and I'm going to ask you what you think silver could hit in the midterm, but if silver runs up, one of the strategies that somebody could deploy is you can, under certain rules and regulations, buy precious metals inside of a Roth IRA, which is tax-free. There's certain rules and regulations, so work with an expert on that, but that could be a way to protect from the taxation of a high capital gain if silver hits a higher price. So can you speak a little bit on what current price of physical silver is versus what it could be if there was another '08 type banking crisis?
Sure. It's all guesswork. But first of all, it's almost a backwards question, and I'm not picking on you, Nathan, because that's a question everyone asks. Right? Well, what's the price of silver? But you know, the real reality is that the ounce of silver doesn't change whatsoever at all. So what really happens is how much devaluation of the dollar is there. And how much is it? Well, they usually go to zero. So how does that put the silver price? Infinity. But of course we know it's not going to be that. What we do know is that it'll be priced higher because of devaluation, and some of that devaluation consciousness moves into the silver market. And the silver market is so small that if Chris got 0.1% of his followers that are just people out there with good hearts, making a decent living, doing the right thing, which is what made this country so good, to come on board, it would have an effect. It is not 50% of the population kind of thing. Right. It's like 1% of everybody that knows who you are and tells 3 people, game over. It's that simple. I mean, I did a film one time called Missing the Silver Market, and I said one of my pet peeves is the coin dealer community, the bullion dealers, and they will all tell you everybody should own a little. And I agree, everyone should own a little gold and silver. And I said, well, how much is a little? I said, well, that's a nebulous term, but I'd say 2 ounces of a little bit of silver. Because 2 ounces of silver, even at $100 an ounce, isn't going to make you rich. Even at $1,000 an ounce, isn't going to make you rich. It may make you happy, but a little bit of silver. So I said, well, if everybody in the United States owned a little bit of silver at 2 ounces, that's 350 million, 320 million times 2 is basically the whole mining industry of the planet in 1 year. So if everybody in the United States owned a little, you'd wipe out the silver market every year. That's
It'd be a self-fulfilling prophecy.
yeah.
You would make it.
Yeah.
have
So
that.
so not everyone can own a little, because the U.S. is 5% of the world's population.
1.2 billion. Did I read that right on your chart, on your thing you showed? That's what, how much is on the earth? It's 1.2.
No, what that shows is that would be paying a day's wages in silver would
Okay,
be
that's
1.2
right.
billion ounces. And the number varies, and even Jeff's numbers change, and they do change because of mining and, you know, putting silver in the refrigerators. But I would say silver, and when I say silver, I mean the COMEX grade bars, which is the paper market backed by some physical, is probably around 2 billion ounces. It could be 4. No one really knows. I don't think Jeff knows, but they'll tell you there's, you know, 16 billion or 19 billion. But what they're counting is silver jewelry, silver artwork, silver, you know, that's in unobtainable forms, like, I don't know, like a membrane switch on your microwave, okay? That's got silver. But it's so small, when you go, you know, junk your microwave, you throw it in the landfill. You don't cut off and take that little membrane switch off. You could, and you could give it to a metals dealer, not anyone, it'd be a specific one you'd have to seek out. And, you know, I'll give you 12 cents for it, you know, and sell it for 30 cents. But you're not going to spend the gas. You're not going to take $4 with the gas to make 30 cents, right? So, but they count some of that silver. In fact, I'll stop there.
You mentioned that you know, an ounce of silver is always worth an ounce of silver. It's in relation to the devaluation of the currency. I heard that in Venezuela they have printed so much of their currency that 1 ounce of silver could feed a family for a month, and it's still just 1 ounce of silver. So to me, that's like there's no counterparty risk, right? We're not depending on a government to set the price of the physical, or we're not trying to get an investment to get ahead of the devaluation, more or less.
The main thing with silver, especially, and gold to some degree, in my opinion, is that most people that catch on to the scam and want to protect themselves that buy it and hoard it. I'm not saying you shouldn't, but the way to make silver valuable is to have it as money. I've proven throughout the ages that the only way to see silver worth 100, 200, 600 bucks per ounce in value in today's dollars is to use it as money. But no one uses it as money, and that's where this digital form of silver, I think, will become more important as time marches on, because people will transact. For an example, with the project, the Load project I'm affiliated with, I will sell my newsletter for 400 in silver instead of 500 in fiat. That's a 20% discount. It's a pretty healthy discount. And that takes care of any fees you pay, because the dealer gets a fee. He can't be in business unless he marks up physical silver.
So let me stop it. The Load project. So this is a cryptocurrency that's backed by physical silver
And gold both, yes.
and gold both. So that's what gives Bitcoin its value.
Yeah, Chris, I want to take the word of crypto out of it. It's tokenized because the physical is there. You're just allowing a digital token to be able to do quick commerce. If you look at it, the money in your bank account is tokenized dollars compared to physical
With an
dollars.
account number. So basically you're getting an account number for how much silver you've got.
Well, see, that makes a lot of sense. That's going to turn a lot of people towards this token stuff. Because I'm telling you, when I tell people, because I'm into crypto, I mean, I can't explain it. I don't plan on ever explaining it. And I'm not going to tell you how the internet works. I don't tell you how this phone works. I mean, I just know, you know.
Sure.
But it makes sense, but the older people are not wanting to hear it. When I tell them about it, it's immediately, I don't want to know. But if it was backed by something physical, now that's something that might go.
Well, speaking of generations, the older generation is still buying metals. The younger generation are buying cryptos. But when the younger generation figures out that there's basically a tokenized metal where they don't have to have it in their apartment with their 4 roommates, but they can still protect the erosion of the dollar, I think that will explode the market. Do you think if, you know, we talked about the physical and the limits there. Do you think if the tokenized market caught on with the millennials, that would break the market free from
I think it
manipulation?
will. I think I don't know if it's inevitable, and you know I'm biased, but that's the next step. Because as you said, if you got 4 roommates or whatever, and you know, everyone brags about Bitcoin. You could take, $20 million across the border and nobody knows. Well, with digitized silver and gold, you do the same thing. And so you could, let's just use an example that's more known. Let's say that you're in a island somewhere and there's severe tyranny going on, and you're going to leave that island and come to a different country to live the rest of your life with your family. And you have done well, you've owned a business, you've served others, and you've been rewarded for it. You don't trust the currency, you don't trust anything about it. So let's say that you take the current currency de jure of that island and convert it to gold and do it in a tokenized method. Hop onto your private jet, fly to another country, land it, and never come back. Now when you get to your location, you could untokenize it, put it back in the physical form, stick it into your banker buddy that lives in your new country. So there's a lot of flexibility there that didn't exist in the past. And your example is even better because it's more pervasive. Would be, you're a college person and you sell something on the side, you're doing really good at it, and you're quitting college because you got to do business. And you want to put something in the metal, but you got 3 guys that you trust somewhat, but they steal your food. They'll probably steal your metal too. But if you have it tokenized, you don't have to say a word about it. And yet you move out, you build your first house, everything's good. You want to convert it from a token to physical, you can.
Yeah. So David, tell us how to find more about you and your reports in the Loge project.
Sure. For the Lode project, go to ag.lode, LODE.1ONE. These days, you can have a URL of almost anything. So it's true. It's ag.lode.one. Watch the videos. There's one about Imagine, and it's idealistic. It's you guys know what I'm like and what I'm about. The idealistic part is imagine. Imagine you have control of your money. Imagine all your friends have control of your money. Imagine that we've got a future where we get to say what's valuable, and we get to trade with what's valuable, and we get to have a community of people that think like us. Imagine that. It's nice to imagine that.
And I want to encourage anybody that's watching this, if you ever get the chance to come to a meetup, you need to come, because you're going to be around like-minded people that it's such a breath of fresh air to walk up to somebody and start talking about things that you've been wondering about and thinking about. Because we all have this tension on us. This kind of, I talk to a lot of people, I poll a lot of people that just normal average people, and they all feel it. They all feel this uneasiness. And when you come to a place like this and speak to these kind of people, it really, I don't know, it just kind of blesses you a little bit. So I appreciate you talking with me.
And for the Morgan Report, just go to my main landing page, themorganreport.com. Probably should update it, but it's still valid. Just put in a first name and an email, and it's a double opt-in, which means you'll get a autoresponder back at you. It'll say, yes, I really want this free report. You click yes, and you're on the mailing list.
Excellent.
Well, this is Nathan with the Independence Money Show, and we've got
Chris
Chris
with Financial Fitness.
and we've just concluded interviewing David Morgan at the Silver Symposium in the beautiful Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, 2021.